Some of the smartest people you'll ever meet look almost forgettable at first. They don't sound impressive. They don't chase attention. And that is exactly what fools people. If you've ever been underestimated, this video might feel a little too personal. Most people think intelligence is obvious. They expect it to be loud, fast, confident, polished. They think smart people always have the perfect words, the strongest presence, the most visible talent. But psychology tells a stranger story. Real intelligence often hides behind ordinary behavior. Sometimes the sharpest mind in the room is the one nobody notices, until it's too late to ignore. Today we're going to explore the psychology of people who are smarter than they look, why they're so often underestimated, why they don't feel the need to perform intelligence, and why the human mind is strangely bad at recognizing depth when it appears in a quiet form. Because intelligence is not always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like silence, sometimes it looks like patience, and sometimes it looks like someone everyone else dismissed too early. Let's begin. Most people don't judge intelligence by actual thinking. They judge it by signals. How fast you speak, how confidently you answer, how well you present yourself, how quickly you dominate a conversation. In psychology, this is close to what we see in thin-sliced judgments. People make fast assumptions based on tiny pieces of behavior. And the problem is, those judgments are often wrong because intelligence and display are not the same thing. Some people are brilliant at looking smart. Others are simply smart. And those are two very different things. The first sign that someone is smarter than they look is that they do not rush to prove it. This confuses people because we live in a world where everyone is signaling. Everyone is showing, posting, reacting, performing. So when someone stays calm, when they don't fight to be seen, others assume there must be less there. But here's the interesting part. People with deeper intelligence often have less urgency to advertise it. They don't need constant confirmation. They're more focused on understanding than impressing. And that makes them appear smaller than they are. The second sign is that they ask simple questions, not flashy questions, not complicated questions designed to sound brilliant. Simple questions, clear questions, sometimes even uncomfortable questions, the kind that makes everyone pause, because truly smart people are usually trying to get to the core of things. They know that confusion often hides behind complexity. So instead of trying to sound advanced, they try to see what's real. And ironically, that can make them seem less intelligent to people who confuse complexity with depth. The third sign is that they observe more than they speak. Have you noticed this? Some people talk to show you what they know. Others stay quiet because they are studying everything. Your tone, your timing, what you avoid, what the room is feeling, what no one is saying. This kind of intelligence is subtle. It's not only cognitive, it's social, emotional, strategic. They are reading patterns while everyone else is reacting to surfaces. And this is where it gets deeper. A person who speaks less is often processing more. Not always, but often, because silence can mean insecurity. But silence can also mean control. The difference is invisible to people who only notice volume. The fourth sign is that they often sound more ordinary than you expect. That surprises people, because many assume intelligence must come dressed in sophisticated language. But some of the smartest people intentionally use simple words. Why? Because clarity is harder than performance. Anyone can hide behind complicated language. But to explain something clearly, to make it understandable, to reduce noise without losing depth, that takes real mental precision. In other words, some people sound simple because their thinking is advanced enough to become simple. That's not a weakness. That's refinement. The fifth sign is emotional restraint. People who are smarter than they look often don't react instantly. They pause. They watch. They think before they express. And in a world trained to mistake reaction for authenticity, that pause can look passive, but it's often the opposite. It is self-regulation. It is awareness. It is the ability to separate feeling from impulse. Psychologically, this matters because intelligence is not just about solving problems on paper. It's also about managing internal chaos. A person who can stay calm while others get pulled into noise may be thinking several layers deeper than everyone around them. Think about this for a moment. How many times have people underestimated someone just because they were quiet, humble, slow to react, or uninterested in attention? And how many times have those same people been shocked later? That shock happens because most humans are drawn to signals of confidence, not signals of depth. And depth takes time to reveal itself. The sixth sign is that they are comfortable being misunderstood for a while. This is rare. Most people feel an immediate need to correct wrong impressions, to explain themselves, to defend their image. But some highly intelligent people don't do that. Not because they are weak, because they know something powerful. Not every misunderstanding deserves a response. Not every audience deserves access. And not every moment requires self-explanation. That kind of restraint comes from perspective. They know that identity built on other people's quick judgments is fragile, so they let time do what performance cannot. Eventually, patterns expose substance. The seventh sign is that they notice what others miss. Small contradictions, tiny shifts in behavior, subtle motives, long-term consequences. They may not always say it immediately, but they see it. And because they see more, they often move differently, more carefully, more quietly, sometimes more slowly. To outsiders, this can look uncertain, but often it's precision. They are not behind. They are simply refusing to move blindly. And here is the deeper psychological truth behind all of this. People who are smarter than they look often develop their intelligence inwardly, not socially, not theatrically, not in a way designed for applause. Maybe they spent years observing instead of speaking. Maybe they learned early that being loud was not the same as being safe. Maybe they discovered that people react more strongly to charm than truth. So instead of becoming impressive on the outside, they became sharp on the inside. They built private depth, private pattern recognition, private discipline. And because of that, their intelligence does not always arrive with a spotlight. Sometimes it arrives wearing average clothes, speaking softly, making no effort to dominate the room. But once you notice it, you cannot unsee it. You start to realize that the most dangerous mind is not always the one trying to look powerful. It may be the one quietly understanding everything while everyone else is busy performing. So if people have underestimated you, don't be too quick to see that as failure. Sometimes being overlooked gives you something very few people ever get. The freedom to observe without interruption. The freedom to learn without pressure. The freedom to grow without constantly being watched. And yes, sometimes smart people are overlooked, but sometimes they choose to be. Because there is power in moving through the world without revealing everything at once. There is power in being deeper than you appear. There is power in letting people discover your mind slowly. Because the loudest thing in the room is not always the strongest. And the people who seem ordinary at first are sometimes the ones carrying entire worlds behind their silence. So the next time someone seems simple, quiet, or unimpressive, look again. The mind you fail to notice first may be the one you never catch up to in the end.